Tonight on Global National, breaking boundaries at the Olympic Games. Vancouver's Phil Wizard clinches a gold in the sport of breaking.
I don't really know what to do when I'm not training, so it's like a midlife crisis waiting to happen when this is all over.
A Canadian b-boy brings his A game to a new sport as Canada's medal haul breaks a record. Destructive deluge.
When we left our house, the water was up to here on my shorts.
Parts of southern Quebec get slammed by never-before-seen amounts of rain. New details on what brought down this passenger plane in Brazil.
I frankly wouldn't want to get on one either.
Where the planes are still flying in Canada and what a U.S. aviation safety expert told us.
Global National, reporting tonight. Nitu Garcha.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. The Paris Olympics is nearing the end and it has been a historic run for Team Canada at these Summer Games. With 27 medals overall, including 9 gold. The medal haul is a record for Team Canada. Among the medalists today is Katie Vincent, taking the gold for the 200-meter canoe sprint with a record time of 44.12 seconds. Philip Kim has also made history, winning the Olympics' first ever gold medal for men's breaking. And runner Marco Arop picked up silver in the 800-meter race, missing the top spot by 100th of a second. All that just scratches the surface of Canada's success. Crystal Goomansingh has our top story tonight on the athletes behind the big wins.
Round of applause for our champions.
The stage at Canada House barely had enough space to hold all of the athletes being celebrated.
Yeah, I mean, just wearing the medal around my neck, every time I look down, the gold color just seems like pretty unbelievable.
It was a photo finish and Katie Vincent paused for the official results before celebrating. Never before has Canada won more than 7 gold medals in the Olympics until today. The historic 8th gold was achieved early in the day in the 200-meter canoe sprint in record time.
How I raced today is what I'm most proud of. I think I just had the best race of my life and on the day that it mattered the most.
It was the second medal for Vincent in as many days. She and doubles canoe sprint partner Sloane Mackenzie won bronze Friday in the 500-meter race.
When we saw the crowd for the first time, I was shocked. You can hear it on the water, and especially when we went up on the podium, it was kind of mind-blowing.
The 9th gold was later won in the new sport of breaking by Philip Kim. The exceptional performances in a variety of sports, says the CEO of Own the Podium, shows what can come by identifying those with great potential and making smart investor recommendations.
Really, our goal is to help Olympic and Paralympic athletes win well, and I think we have so many examples of that here in Paris.
Big wins can raise a sports profile and attract much-needed financing, something not lost on the winning silver women's beach volleyball team.
We have experienced the growth of this sport, and we can see the potential of it.
To come out where we are took a lot of work, a lot of grit, a lot of heart.
Tokyo was the previous benchmark for success, where Canadians captured 24 medals.
It's just incredible to, team up with these guys.
Andre DeGrasse propelled himself to his 7th Olympic medal, tying with swimmer Penny Oleksiak as Canada's most decorated athletes. He anchored and helped the men win a 3rd straight Olympic medal in the 4x100.
Just feels good to complete the set. I mean, Rio, bronze, Tokyo, silver, gold in Paris. I mean, it's a dream come true, man. It's a complete story.
There are still a few competitions featuring Canadians on Sunday ahead of the closing ceremonies. And who knows, maybe the City of Lights still has a little magic in store for Team Canada. Neetu?
Crystal Goomansingh at the Olympics in Paris. Thanks, Crystal. Preparations are already underway for the 2028 Summer Games in Los Angeles, the 3rd time that city will host the Olympics. The city is known for, among other things, highways and traffic. But its mayor says the plan is to go green with a car-free Olympics.
We're already working to create jobs by expanding our public transportation system in order for us to have a no-car games. And that's a feat in Los Angeles because we've always been in love with our cars.
On top of bolstering LA's public transportation, the mayor says the city plans to borrow more than 3,000 buses from all over the U.S. for the Games. They also plan to make Olympic venues only accessible by public transportation. Record-setting rainfall in Montreal has flooded several roadways and homes. Some communities north of the city have been cut off entirely after remnants of Storm Debby brought in more than a month's worth of rain. In downtown Montreal, 145 millimeters fell on the city, while north in Lenoir, 221 millimeters poured down. Power outages were widespread, with Hydro-Quebec reporting more than 500,000 customers without power at the peak. While most of the outages are expected to be restored by the end of tonight, there is major damage left behind by the torrential rainfall. Our Dan Spector has more on how residents are cleaning up.
Where do you start?
The Soren family assessed the devastating damage done to their home on Friday night. Their basement was completely submerged, their living room waterlogged, the garage a total disaster, the entire street overtaken by water.
When we left our house, the water was up to here on my shorts. If you look at the car, that's how high the water got. And no, my wife and I don't park like that. Both our cars were lifted and pushed over to the side from the water.
The remnants of Tropical Storm Debby dropped up to 170 millimeters of rain on Montreal, the most the city has ever seen in one day. Sewer systems could not keep up, and water poured into basements in several neighborhoods. This street in Kirkland, near Montreal's western tip, was hit hard. It seemed like everyone was dragging waterlogged items to the curb.
We had 2 cars, but neither one of them are drivable, so I don't have a car and I don't have a house to live in.
It was definitely really scary and probably the most helpless I've ever felt.
Major highways were temporarily paralyzed, including the Trans-Canada. In Laval, this hotel parking lot became a lake. The Laurentians and Lanaudière regions north of Montreal saw landslides. About 300 people evacuated due to overflowing rivers. More than 100 roads washed out.
There are some people that's isolated from their house because the roads are impacted. So we're talking about 1,200 people that are isolated.
It was like up to here, so.
Back in Kirkland, the water has mostly receded, and now residents hope the damage to their homes and cars will be completely covered by insurance. But answers could take time, as providers are getting inundated with calls.
I've never seen it that strong, you know.
Brand new renovated basement. I did it myself. The water was up to here.
One neighbor who did not want to appear on camera used his heavy-duty pumps to help people drain their basements.
Everybody came together, which was nice, so it's just sad to see what's going to happen.
It could be weeks or even months before the lives of so many people feel normal again. But some are just wondering where they'll be sleeping tonight. Nitu.
All right, Dan Spector in Kirkland, Quebec. Thanks, Dan. In New York, the remnants of Storm Debby caused floodwaters to sweep away structures and trees on Friday, while in Pennsylvania, the storm triggered flooding and a tornado in Harrisburg, ripping the roof off of this church and damaging several homes. There were no reports of injuries. In Alberta, the mayor of Jasper says a reentry plan for evacuated residents will be announced on Monday, more than 3 weeks after wildfires destroyed almost 30% of the town. With the fire risk slowly diminishing, business owners have already been returning. But as Heather Yourex-West explains, there's still a lot of work to be done to prepare for the general public.
For the thousands of evacuated Jasper residents, it is another hopeful sign. Business owners back in the community, cleaning up and getting ready to reopen.
We have 3 coolers, freezers for M&M product that we carry in the store. And so we were initially hit with quite a strong odor of spoiled food.
But otherwise, the Jasper Pharma-Save fared relatively well, with only spoiled food and some ash to clean up. This video taken from its roof showing how close the fire came. The building right next door heavily damaged.
The sight lines have changed forever. The L&W restaurant on the corner from us, which has been a landmark for decades, tragically is gone, along with the block of houses afterwards.
The owners of pharmacies, grocery stores, gas stations and banks, businesses deemed essential, have been allowed back into the community as the town readies its reentry plan, though business owners aren't being permitted anywhere near their homes.
We know that businesses are eager to get back into the town and people want to return home.
but it's important that the necessary infrastructure and services are in place so that people can return to a safe and stable environment.
The people of Jasper are also rallying around the Calgary family of a young firefighter who lost his life earlier this month. Morgan Kitchen was part of the crew working to protect the community when he was hit by a falling tree. A veteran of the Canadian Armed Forces and British Royal Marines, Kitchen was just 24 years old. In a tribute posted on social media, he is remembered as a much-loved character who brought streams of adventure, joy, and fun. Someone who could have been a gifted teacher, but was wired to be a first responder. A funeral will be held for Kitchen in Calgary next Saturday. Heather Yourex-West, Global News, Calgary.
Black boxes have been recovered from the site of the deadly plane crash in Brazil, which killed everyone on board when it dropped out of the sky on Friday. Shocking footage of the moments before impact have aviation experts weighing in on the potential cause. As Sean O'Shea reports, the type of plane involved in the crash is in use in Canada.
A passenger plane in a flat spin, no longer flying but falling, as onlookers recorded what happened on their phones before the crash.
It was clear that they had had a total aerodynamic stall. And by the time that video was being captured, there was no way to save that plane.
62 people died after Vopas Linhas Aéreas Flight 2283 burst into flames near Sao Paulo, Brazil. The aircraft, a French-made ATR-72 turboprop.
So that was useful to know that the engines were still running, so they hadn't had an engine failure.
Brazilian media cited experts pointing to icing as a potential cause, the key factor in the crash of an ATR-72 in the United States back in 1994.
And if you're not expecting it and if you're not able to get out of it, you're just stuck.
The former Inspector General of the U.S. Department of Transportation says the ATR-72 is no longer popular in the United States, but it is in use here in Canada, frequently in cold weather conditions. The ATR-72 500 series was certified by Transport Canada in 2017. At the time, the French-Italian consortium said the aircraft has proven that they are the perfect match for challenging markets such as Canada, where their ability to fly in extreme cold, icy weather conditions, take off and land on unpaved and short runways, and their unrivaled performance are invaluable. Among carriers using them, North Star Air, based in Thunder Bay, and Calm Air, which flies routes in Manitoba. Schiavo says Transport Canada might want to review the plane's airworthiness as a result of the accident.
It was very dramatic.
A crash that Schiavo says rightfully might cause concern among flyers.
Fear is a very important, a very important emotion and feeling. And frankly, on an ATR in icing after seeing that accident, I frankly wouldn't want to get on one either.
This air crash claiming the lives of 58 passengers and 4 flight crew, the worst in 2024. Sean O'Shea, Global News, Toronto.
Nowhere is safe. Coming up, Israel hits another school in Gaza. We'll tell you why the IDF said it had to strike. Plus, what happened at a Trump rally that's got Celine Dion's team up in arms? An Israeli airstrike on a school building sheltering displaced Palestinians in Gaza has killed dozens. Israel says the compound was a military facility and claims it killed at least 19 Islamic Jihad terrorists in the attack. Hamas denies the allegations, adding the death toll could rise well above 100. As Grace Key reports, no matter the total, the attack is being widely condemned.
The Israeli strike on a Gaza school turned shelter came during dawn prayers. Israel said about 20 militants were embedded with 350 displaced Palestinian families. The Hamas-run Gaza government says more than 100 people were killed, with many more injured. One girl saying, "We were sleeping when the fire approached us. Then my hand and leg were burnt. We waited for the ambulance and we started screaming." The White House released a statement after the attack, reading in part, "We mourn every Palestinian civilian lost in this conflict, including children, and far too many civilians continue to be killed and wounded. This underscores the urgency of a ceasefire and hostage deal, which we continue to work tirelessly to achieve." Schools have been used as shelters because the alternatives are much worse. Hunger and disease are spreading quickly in squalid, crowded camps. The United Nations condemning a senior Israeli minister for suggesting it might be moral and justified for starving people in Gaza.
The High Commissioner is shocked and appalled by the words of Minister Smotrich, according to whom letting 2 million Palestinians in Gaza starve to death could be justified and moral in order to free hostages.
Israel says the militant group operates out of schools, hospitals, and humanitarian zones. Hamas denies the claim, calling the strike a horrific crime and serious escalation. Grace Key, Global News, Vancouver.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has for the first time acknowledged his military's operation deep in Russian territory. Ukraine is proving it can restore justice, Zelensky said in a recorded message, adding that the actions on the front line are pushing the war onto the aggressor's territory. Moscow, meanwhile, says it has imposed what it calls a counter-terrorism operation in 3 border regions in an effort to halt the surprise cross-border incursion. Russian state media says more than 76,000 people have been evacuated from the Kursk region, the area where some 1,000 Ukrainian troops are said to have entered on Tuesday.
Once more, you open the door.
Celine Dion is slamming the door on Donald Trump and his team for using her music at a rally in Montana yesterday. Her management team says it was not authorized and questions the music choice, asking, quote, "Really? That song?" Ahead, Tina Fontaine's lasting legacy in the words of her brother, 10 years after she's believed to have died. The family of 15-year-old Tina Fontaine is honoring her legacy tonight, refusing to let the teenager's death be in vain. Fontaine is believed to have been killed on this day 10 years ago. Her body was pulled from the Red River in Winnipeg a week later. As Catherine Dornian reports, Tina's loss is a powerful reminder of just how vulnerable Indigenous women and girls remain in a country as rich, prosperous, and otherwise safe as Canada.
Elroy Fontaine was just 9 years old when his sister's body was found in the Red River.
They brought me and my 2 other siblings into the office and they told us that our sister Tina Fontaine passed away. And I remember being very confused and not understanding.
Both in Child and Family Services at the time, they lived separately and saw each other a few times a month, but that was enough to form an unbreakable bond.
She was a person with a really, really big heart. She was always kind and caring, very motherly, and she taught me how to love people in a good way and to be a good, caring person.
Tina is believed to have died August 10th, 2014, after going missing in downtown Winnipeg. A week later, her body was discovered wrapped in a duvet. 62-year-old Raymond Cormier was tried and ultimately acquitted of killing her, but her case brought attention to the nationwide crisis of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. And that impact is still felt today.
Even in her passing, I think, honestly, she's probably saved many, many lives across the country.
Eric Lavoie and Jada Scott organized a musical memorial to Tina. It's raising money for Nadinaway, a 24-hour shelter for at-risk youth, which also has a drop-in center called Tina's Safe Haven. Scott says Tina's legacy inspires her to be understanding and compassionate towards the young girls she works with.
They're just put to the side, and I think we need to spread light and not just let them be. Everybody needs help, and they might not show it in the right way, but there is no wrong way to show it.
For Elroy, the increase in resources, shelters, and search teams means the province is on a good path. He just wishes it hadn't cost him so dearly.
I probably wouldn't say anything to her. I probably would just hug her for the longest time. I wouldn't have the words if I saw her again today.
Catherine Dornian, Global News.
Next, behind the scenes with Canadian breakdancer Philip Kim, who's won gold in the sport's inaugural Olympic appearance. This Afghan athlete, Manija Talash, has been disqualified from the Olympics for making this political statement at the Games. That's a no-no at the Olympics. The 21-year-old was representing the Olympic refugee team and was participating in the sport of breaking, the same sport that Canada's Philip Kim today won a gold medal in. As we've been reporting, breaking is a brand new sport that's making a breakthrough at the Olympics in Paris. And Canada's Philip Kim clinched the country's first gold medal in the sport earlier today. Its name is a variation on breakdancing. It's a mix of acrobatics and stylized footwork set to music. But it's so new to the scene that it won't even be around at the next games in Los Angeles. Our Taria Isri recently sat down with the b-boy known as Phil Wizard.
Breakdancing was born in New York's hip-hop scene in the 1970s. But its Olympic story begins now at the 2024 Paris Games. Canadian breakdancer Philip Kim is there, and the b-boy is bringing his A game.
I train pretty much every day, like breaking and working out. I don't really know what to do when I'm not training, so it's like a midlife crisis waiting to happen when this is all over.
Kim, who goes by Phil Wizard, got hooked at 11 years old.
It wasn't like an epiphany moment of like, this is what I have to do. I remember when I first saw breaking live, it was more like, that looks cool, I can impress people.
His passion became an obsession, but it took a while to get his parents on board.
Like, we came here from Korea, immigrated here, sacrificed our lives to give you guys a different opportunity, and you want to be a breakdancer, like, you know, so all from a place of love, of course, but I want that narrative to change for people not to be surprised or discourage anybody to pursue breaking.
That narrative is changing with the introduction of breakdancing, also known as breaking, at the Olympics. Part elite sport, part art form.
So there is a barrier that we're breaking, a higher audience that we're reaching that we would have never reached before.
Both an athlete and a sport, taking their biggest stage yet. Taria Isri, Global News, Montreal.
And that is Global National for this Saturday night. I'm Neetu Garcha. Tonight's Your Canada is Montmorency Falls in Quebec City. Thanks so much for watching and hope you'll join us again tomorrow. Have a great night.